You know, much has been made about the shrinking middle class, but there's more to this story than you hear in the campaign trail. See, when we hear shrinking middle class, right, we think that people have fallen out of the middle class, but the fact of the matter is most of these households have actually moved into a higher income bracket over the past few decades, and the lower income household bracket has declined. Higher income households, that's a total percentage of income earners, have climbed to 26%. That's a 225% jump since 1967. And here's the problem, though. 41% of households are still stuck in the middle. 32% are stuck in a lower income bracket. So add that up, you're talking almost 74%. That's your source of resentment. That is your source of anxiety. Those stuck in the middle to lower income brackets are watching that prosperity train leave the station. They are not on it. Making matters worse, incomes have only just begun to rebound, leaving many folks with bitter feelings over being stuck in a rut for so long. So the basic question here, you've got two of them, right? Is income advancement a right? Do we have a right to it? Secondly, how can we make steady wage growth a sustained part of the American dream? Of course, smart fiscal policy is important, but the key, in my mind, for this advancement and success is education. I want you to take a look at a chart. Nearly 54% of Asians in America receive a bachelor's degree. This compared to 36% of whites, 22% of blacks, and only 15% of Hispanics. The trend throughout the years has proven that Asian Americans, their commitment to higher education, it correlates perfectly to higher incomes. Now, I will say, to be sure, if it was only about education, then black Americans would earn more than Hispanics, and that's not the case. So there are other factors, from individual family values to community challenges, but make no mistake, the big key to economic freedom now and certainly in the future is education. On that note, I want to bring back Morgan Ortagus and Peter Morici. Peter, this is the way I see it, that if you haven't moved up in the last decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, if you've been sideways to down, you are bitterly resentful and you want someone to help you get back up.
Well, you've struck an important point. There are jobs available, and we could create more jobs with the right monetary and fiscal policies, but people have to have the skills. So we have to make high schools more relevant, bring back meaningful vocational education in the technology area, make it available across the board, but also those middle-range colleges, those state colleges that are very inexpensive, they simply aren't offering relevant education. Getting an English degree from so-so state university just doesn't get you a job. That has to change.
Yeah, 6 million job openings, 10 million people unemployed. There is something of it to that skills gap argument. But this is a major political issue as well, Morgan. People are resentful, and they want someone to come in and put a factory back in their backyard so they can get that old school job that used to provide them with a home and enough money to send their kids to college.
You're right, and both candidates are promising to do that, but there's no real plan for it. No one said how they're bringing the jobs back. Now, both of the candidates have talked about, like, penalizing Ford Motor Company, for example, for moving jobs to Mexico back to the U.S. But it gets back to the education, I think, that you're talking about. Promising students, promising young people a free 4-year college degree doesn't necessarily equip you for the skills that you need for whatever job is there in life. So you have to look at vocational education, as he said. So I think we've got a lot of promises in the campaign: free education for a degree that may not necessarily be useful. We've got a lot of promises about penalizing companies, but what we need to focus on is giving Americans the right skills to get the jobs that are available now. There's plenty of high-tech jobs coming down, and honestly, when you start to think about machines, machine learning, innovation in the tech sector, the Internet of Things, there's a whole revolution when it comes to robots, et cetera. That's going to be a much
There will be a lot of jobs, and you have to have the right skills for them. By the way, the CEO of Ford did suggest today that if we had lower taxes and lower regulations, that he would be able to create more jobs in this country.